It's Sidra Naeem. She's a Muslim chaplain at the Anglia Ruskin University, and we're going to be exploring Islam in a few moments right here on Gateway 97. And have another guest in the studio, no stranger to Gateway, and a very special person because of the card that I'm holding in my hand. Sidra Naeem, welcome back. Lovely to have you here. And I've got to say, you're wearing an absolutely gorgeous outfit tonight. That's it looks like a crimson black. Is it a dress
fuchsia,
or is it a two-piece? It's got a special name. Cardigan. It's
the colour's fuchsia. Well, I call it fuchsia.
Yeah. And the headscarf that goes with it, that's also got that
pink
detail in it as well. It's fantastic.
Yeah, they've got to match, don't they? The headscarves have got to match with the outfit. It wouldn't go right otherwise.
Well, Ivy, I've got the headscarf that you gave me over at Chelmsford Mosque, which is sort of wrapped around my neck at the moment. I'm sure lots of people would probably like to strangle me with it, but there we are.
Looks lovely.
It looks lovely. Everybody keeps commenting on it and saying, "Oh, where did you get that?" And of course, I like to tell them the story.
It's lovely.
Which is lovely. I'll say I got it at a mosque in Chelmsford, which it is. It's brilliant.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm holding a card in my hand, which you sent me a picture of a couple of weeks ago, and I must say I'm delighted for you. Now, to read it out to our listener, it says, "The master of the household has received Her Majesty's command to invite Mrs. Sidra Naeem to a reception to be given at Buckingham Palace by the Queen." It's on Wednesday the 14th of February. It's next week, Valentine's Day.
Yes, it is, yes.
6 p.m. You're going to be celebrating Valentine's Day with the Queen.
Yes.
So how did this come about? It must be due to your community work.
Yes, it is. It's a reward, isn't it, really, for all the voluntary work that I've been doing, including
Well, you do a lot.
Yes. So, the accompanying letter says that it's for someone in the UK who has made a notable contribution either to their own or the wider community.
Well, they obviously feel that you have. It's been recognised, which is fantastic news, isn't it?
It is. I never expected, really, when I do all of this work, I never expect a reward like this. I just do it because it makes me feel good, and I like to portray Muslims as a good role model, which, I try really hard to, as you know, which is really the main reason, I think, that when I started all of this.
And because we hear a lot of negative press, as we say on this programme, a lot of the media stories about Muslims is negative.
Yes.
We try to straighten that out here.
Exactly. So the more negative I hear, the more I feel strongly I need to go out and do something to put that right. But I also feel that things come my way themselves, through God or whatever you want to feel, whatever you feel happens. But things come to my door themselves, like this radio show.
Yes. So it's almost like God's will in itself, isn't it?
Yes, phone call around my house from Yvonne. Don't even know where she got my number from, anything. Can you come to the show and talk about Islam? So this is an example, classic example, really.
Well, I can perhaps shed a little bit more light on that now, because I know that Yvonne was wanting to do a section on Islam because of a lot of the stuff in the news. She was wanting to get somebody in, a speaker, somebody who could do exactly what you do on the radio here in Basildon. And she contacted Basildon Council, spoke to, I believe, Shamrika, or in Dungy in the diversity part of Basildon Council, and it was they that put Yvonne in touch with you, and that's how that connection was made. And of course,
and that's because I run a women's group there in Basildon.
Yes,
for vulnerable women from different backgrounds. And I organise coffee mornings with craft activities, lectures on Interfaith.
Now, this is on a Wednesday, isn't it?
Yes,
I think we've mentioned it before. Is it every week?
It used to be every 2 weeks, but I am very busy, as you must guess. I'm even more busier now. This is, my third town today where I'm coming to. But now it's once a month, so the next one is the week after next.
Week after next, so it's sort of like third week in the month, or
Yes, approximately third week of every month. And again, we have organised craft activities, lectures on Interfaith, coffee mornings, lunch as well. It's a whole day thing, and it really, really helps women who have got any mental health or any stress, anxiety in their lives. It helps everybody, really. Anyone with English as an additional language. We've got a good mix of ladies and a good mix of faiths there as well.
I was going to say who uses it, who comes to it. So that's what it is, a mixture. It's a women's group, and it covers any topic.
Any topic. We have speakers on health. We've had speakers on diabetes before, on bereavement, counselling, that kind of stuff. All topics relevant to everyday life. And Basildon Council are very good because they allocate the speakers to us. And they also send people to us as well. Anyone there who they feel needs the group, they send them to us.
That's absolutely brilliant, isn't it? So there's that, and obviously the work presumably that you've been doing. We've spoken before with the police and the Prevent programme. We've touched on that. And of course all the work you do at Anglia Ruskin University.
Yes, lots. I mean, I'm a Muslim chaplain at 3 different places: Chelmsford College, St Luke's Hospice and Anglia Ruskin University. I started all this community work since 9/11. And that's what triggered it, really, and that's the truth. It was after 9/11 where people started asking me questions because they knew I was a Muslim.
And those questions have kept flowing more and more so with the latest spate of terror attacks that we've seen.
Yes, definitely. It's getting more in depth, actually, my knowledge, as I've been going along.
I should imagine you've probably been learning
so much. When I first came to Brentwood, where I live, I didn't know much about Islam because I'd lived with Muslims all my life and I'd learnt parrot fashion my faith without thinking outside the box. But when 9/11 happened, that is when really I got the questions which I myself didn't know the answers to. So I had to go away and look into the faith and research properly.
And now you're probably the best speaker to be able to deal with it because you're probably used to the questions you get asked now.
Yes, I'm very used to it now. Now I feel so confident. A lot of them are the same questions. Yes, same questions, always the same. Are Muslim women oppressed? Are we terrorists? Why do we suicide bomb ourselves? Blah, blah, blah. All the same questions.
Those are the most asked questions, would you say?
Those are the top 3 questions, top 3 wherever I go.
Why do you go and blow yourselves up?
Yes, of course, because of all the silly things that ISIS are doing. You know, it's the same kind of stuff. Once in a while you'll get a bit of a shock question and you think, gosh, where did they get that one from?
Yes.
But I'm quick to put that right. And I think being a British Muslim really helps. Someone who they can relate to, everyone can relate to, because I'm born and brought up here. I'm British. Obviously, if I wasn't British, I wouldn't be invited to the Queen because it's to do with the British Empire, isn't it? And to be part of the Commonwealth. So,
but, you know, you are part of it, and that's it, you know, which is, again, a good sign that this country not only welcomes people of other faiths, you know, who may have a lineage that comes from abroad, but, you know, you're truly integrated. That faith is truly integrated into British society.
I did get an anonymous phone call before Christmas, and it was about my ethnicity. That is my ethnicity from a Commonwealth country. And it is. So when that phone call came, I thought something's going to happen.
When you say an anonymous phone call, you...
I don't know who it was from, and they said, we're not allowed to tell you because it's a surprise. And we just want to know...
It's obviously something to do with this, isn't it? This invitation.
Yes. And I still don't know who actually nominated me. I thought it was the chair of Essex County Council, but I saw
you're very understanding, because when somebody say, I can't tell you who I am, give me information, I won't give it to them, because I say, well, you know, you've got to play ball with me before I release any information on anything. Anyway, at least it was something positive.
But things were getting bigger. Last year, I don't know if you remember, I went to Houses of Parliament and I met all the MPs. Then I went to a very big racecourse dinner, and there I met MPs from all over England, and all the Queen's representatives were there. Apparently it was one of the Queen's representative for Essex who nominated me, and then they wrote to 2 other people for references. That's what happened.
That's fantastic.
Yes.
Might it have been Lord Peter?
It might have been Lord Peter, but that's another interesting thing, because when I asked the chair of Essex County Council, he referred to a she. And I know that the new...
yes.
I know that the new Queen's representative in Essex is actually a woman.
Yes.
Who I haven't met. So... It's a bit of a mystery, really, what happened.
Okay. Well, sounds like you've got a cold there. So while you sort yourself out with that, we better have a look at the roads and the trains. We're exploring Islam tonight on Gateway 97.8, our local radio from the heart of Eastgate. And there's some Muslim events coming up soon. We'll tell you more about those in just a few moments' time.
Gateway.
For the next hour as well, Sidra Naeem, Muslim chaplain from Anglia Ruskin University, also does a lot of volunteering. She's been invited next week to go and see the Queen in a reception to be given at Buckingham Palace, and I'm holding the invitation card in my hand at the moment. Very jealous, although I have been to the garden party myself and experienced Buckingham Palace, so I can say that you will enjoy yourself there, and it will be a trip I'm sure you'll never ever forget.
That's good.
So, what's happening in your world at the moment? Because there's something coming up in Havering. You sent me a poster earlier today. I did say we were going to mention some of the events that are happening in that area.
Now, what's interesting is, very recently, there is now a National Mosque Open Day where all the mosques in the whole of England try to open their doors to the public. The whole reason is to try and eliminate Islamophobia and dispel some of the myths. So,
do you think this seems to work? And
yes, definitely does work for the people who come.
Yeah.
And my local mosque, which is Havering Islamic Cultural Centre, where I give a lot of lectures to Muslims, and our Interfaith forums actually held there, the ones in Havering. They've got a very big open day, and basically I'm giving 2 lectures on that day. One is the history of Islam in Britain, which is a very, very interesting topic. I did that recently, actually, at the university where I work at, and we had 70 people coming to watch that, so it went very, very well.
Fantastic.
Including the chair of Essex County Council came as well.
Yeah.
With all his gold and everything. It was really good. And then the other lecture is on the golden age of Islamic inventions.
Right.
That's in the afternoon. There will be stalls, there will be food, there will be lots of chatting and looking around. And that's on 18th February, which is National Mosque Open Day.
That's a Sunday, isn't it?
It is, so. And it's 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
Islamic inventions, some interesting inventions that have been invented in that part of the world then. What kind of things?
So many things. You would be so surprised. Clocks.
Right.
Clocks, compasses, soap. It was actually a Muslim person called Mohammed who brought soap to this country and opened up the first public baths in Brighton.
That's something I didn't know.
Yes.
Amazing.
So that lecture, if you do come, is definitely worth watching because it opened up a lot of eyes.
That's Sunday the 18th of this month. So Sunday week.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So, And is that an all-day event?
It's 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock.
So, for a large portion.
And then
of
the
day.
other mosque, which Chelmsford, where you've been, they're trying to expand a little bit because it's too small for lots of activities they want to do.
Now, this is the mosque I've been to. It is rather small. You have to go up lots of flights of stairs, don't you,
so they're trying to sort of buy some land and try and expand it so that they can have a cricket pitch. For example, the cricket match
the
that we
Interfaith
do.
games, yes.
Yeah, we've been doing that off campus in a way, so we'd like to incorporate all of that all together. So for that, there is a great big a bazaar. To raise money, and that's on 17th March, and that's 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock. And we've hired a school out, Columbus College, Partridge Avenue, Chelmsford, CM14JG.
Excellent.
And
so those are the next two big events really coming up on the Islamic calendar, as we say here, that we can join in if you want to go and see what happens there and dispel some of those myths, as we say, and learn a little bit in the process as well about some of the things that are there, you know, some of the inventions, as you say. And I do remember some kind of sundial piece of equipment at the Chelmsford Mosque that looked quite interesting.
Yes, it was a astrolabe.
That's right. That's what I couldn't remember the name of it. Yeah,
which is to do with navigation in ships, and a compass. A lot of these inventions actually were invented as a direct result of the religion.
Yeah.
So, for example, because we pray 5 times a day, the clock was invented so we know when to pray. Soap was invented so we can wash ourselves 5 times a day. Prayer mats were invented, carpets were invented so that we can pray on a clean space. A compass was invented so we can face the right direction.
Right. Oh, is there any truth in this thing that they keep saying, facing Mecca? Is there anything?
Correct. Yes,
that's to do with that too. So praying, you would be facing a certain direction.
Yes, and that just promotes brotherhood and love, really, and unity, because if everybody in the whole world are all facing towards one direction,
right,
all at the same time, it promotes brotherhood, love and unity.
But if you're on the other side of Mecca, you'll be facing a different direction to brothers and sisters on the other side.
But at least in that country,
so it's
everybody
really like
would be facing...
circle, isn't it?
Yeah, and you're all facing towards the middle in a way, so...
focal point,
definitely. And that's the way the prayer mats are laid out in the mosques as well.
Okay, talking to Sidra Naeem. Anyway, my guest, Sidra Naeem, a Muslim chaplain from Anglia Ruskin University, and of course works with so many other different organisations to do with teaching, really, sort of dispelling the myths about Islam. And we've got to touch on one story which has obviously come to a conclusion since we last met up, and that was the story last week that a judge told a man he had a twisted view of Muslims before sentencing him to at least 43 years behind bars for the Finsbury Park terror attack. We're talking, of course, about Darren Osborne. He drove a van he'd hired in Cardiff, of all places, into a group of worshippers outside 2 North London mosques in June. The judge also praised an imam after he urged people not to hurt the 48-year-old in the aftermath. Mohammed Mahmood was his name, and he said it was a natural response. So praise for Mohammed Mahmood. And also Darren Osborne gets 43 years. He's 48 years old, so I've worked it out, he'll be about 91 before he is eligible for parole. Justice done?
Wasted life, isn't it?
Wasted
really?
life, yeah.
Yeah, sad, really.
Yes. I mean, this is another one that adds to the catalogue of terrorist attacks. Different this one. This is like not Islam or Islamic extremists attacking Western culture. This is Western culture attacking Islam, and indiscriminately too. So it's the other way round now. This one I kind of see as similar to the Joe Cox attack.
Yes, definitely. Yeah,
because it's certainly the influence of what they've been seeing in the news.
Yeah, definitely.
That's caused it.
He was brainwashed against Islam, and then it got so much he couldn't control his temper.
Do you know what I heard it was? It was a documentary about the Rotherham scandal.
Oh.
He saw that and the hatred built from there.
Again, we all hear bad stories, but we don't all go around doing that. So I still feel emotionally these people are unstable to begin with, for them to portray themselves like that. We all hear hatred stuff and we get angry when we hear the news, but we just don't go around killing everyone, do we? So
no, but I mean, in this circumstance, it's like hate crime. It's an attack against Islam, but you can liken it to domestic violence situations where a disagreement breaks out in a house, somebody loses the plot, and in a few moments, somebody's been seriously injured or killed. It seems to be a failing in human beings.
Yes, definitely.
Would you definitely say that? And I mean, with the terrorists, the Islamic terrorists, it's like an allegiance to something to make them feel part of something, a role models, like we were just discussing off mic a few moments ago, Salman Abedi, the Manchester bomber. Mm-hmm. And he was brainwashed by stuff he saw online. we're still seeing reports as well of YouTube and Google, people wanting to make them more accountable for what is actually posted online, and them saying that they're not taking the material down quick enough, or even preventing it from going on there in the first place. Do you think the internet could be better policed?
Yes.
I know it's a tall order.
Yes, definitely. That definitely has come up in the past in conversation. I think that, for example, on YouTube, there are certain videos that can't go on. Pornography and things like that are filtered out, aren't they?
Well, we'd like to think so, but,
Yes.
We've been hearing the today about John Venables, the killer of James Bulger, downloading pornography, and is now being recalled, presumably is going to be recalled to further justice because of this.
Was that from YouTube then?
Possibly.
Yes.
Possibly it's downloaded images, so is all we know at the moment. And obviously this story still going on as we speak, so obviously we will hear it as fresh news comes in. But obviously a seriously troubled individual, and again, a different category, but the same sort of failing in human beings, not being able to control urges, I think is what it's all about, isn't it? It's what we're talking about.
Yes, definitely. There needs to be a boundary, really, with everybody, whether that's through faith or whether that's just morals,
But people always cross the line.
Yes, and that's where the bad is, isn't there? That's where the evil comes in. So everyone needs to know their boundaries and the limits, and not to go there in the first place, because some things are addiction as well.
Yeah, indeed.
Okay.
So, with the information that you've got there, what can we tell our listener tonight about this to sort of further this positive information that we want to give? I'd like to know perhaps tonight a little bit more about the Prophet Muhammad, because, he wasn't a bad person.
No,
he wouldn't have wanted to see this sort of thing going on.
No, of course not. In our religion, if you kill one person, it's like killing the whole of mankind. That's how strong it is. In our religion, we don't even drink alcohol just in case we may commit a sin.
Yeah.
We pray 5 times a day. So imagine, if there is a religion that tells you to pray 5 times a day and you're not even allowed to drink alcohol just in case you may commit a sin, then can that religion then tell you to kill?
The Islamic faith is very strict on these things?
Of course, it's forbidden in the Quran. Alcohol is forbidden, and the reason is...
So you never even have a tipple, even for a celebration?
No, nothing.
No, nothing at all?
No.
So it's just
nothing.
Orange juice for you then?
Yeah, or you can have non-alcoholic cocktails. And I've had non-alcoholic champagne before when I went somewhere. It was a party and they had bought this bottle of champagne for me, but it was non-alcoholic.
Right, yeah.
So
you're never going to get done for drink driving, are you?
No, never.
No.
Yes.
So no.
And gambling is forbidden. All the bad things are forbidden in our religion.
Yeah, so it kind of begs the question: why in in the Islamic world do things go wrong?
Because
with these
people
things?
are not perfect. The religion is perfect. All religions are perfect. If everybody followed their religion as it is, they would all be perfect people. Honestly, because the religion is perfect.
So there's no perfection in Islam.
Yes.
There's no perfection in Christianity.
But people are not perfect. You see. People are not perfect.
Which is what we were saying. It goes back to what we were saying. There are, it's a basic flaw in human nature, and we've discussed on this show before. And apologies now if young ears are at the radios, but, rape is another issue. Again, why does it happen? And even what we're saying with the Harvey Weinstein thing, and things getting right out of hand now with the President's Club, the Formula One girls, and the darts girls. It's getting really, really silly now, isn't it?
It is, yes. I was just speaking about that this morning, actually. I did 3 topics today this morning, and one of them was about that.
Yeah.
And it was about modesty. If they dressed modestly, then everything would be fine. But they're very scantily dressed.
Yes, but that's their choice, isn't it?
It is their choice, but they've got to also understand that then will impact on others.
Sure.
Their choice, what they're doing, will impact other people.
But we heard from somebody who was a guest on this show last week who knew through contacts of a Formula One pit girl who, because of that job and because of, being what she was, dressed the way she was, she then got a really, really good job somewhere else through the contacts she'd made. If she'd never done that job in the pit lanes, she'd never got the top job she's got at the moment, which comes with a lot of money apparently. So
but money doesn't make you happy, does it?
I guess it doesn't, and it certainly doesn't hold back time either. Exploring Islam tonight. So we've been talking about people and the situation with Darren Osborne, the Finsbury Park Mosque, how sad that event was, and also about some other issues as well, including darts and Formula One. You were talking about that this morning.
Yes.
So what are your feelings on the matter? Scantily clad women a no-no?
Yes, according to Islam, yes. Modesty is very important in all faiths, actually.
Yeah.
Modesty is in all faiths. That's why nuns dress, modesty.
Oh, yes,
well.
But come on, Sidra, we can't all go out dressed as nuns, surely.
No. Well, I do.
Yes, but that's your choice.
Yes.
The same as I say, a pit lane girl will make the choice to dress the way she does for the job.
I think there needs to be, the middle way with everything, really, and obviously dressing in the middle way is fine. That's the best way, really, isn't it?
Well, it is for me.
Yes, of course.
I've got things to hide here, of the wobbly bits, the sort of bits.
But also, the tension it brings, the lustfulness and the sexual desire.
Oh, gosh, yes.
That goes with dressing scantily.
Well, we know what it can cause if you if you have the right kind of appearance. I don't think I think maybe 20 years ago I might have done it, but not now. Anyway, that is one of the subjects, and of course, where will it end though? Where will it end? Countdown Girl, she stands there in a short skirt on Countdown on Channel 4. Is that going to go as well? Where's it going to end? Come on, tell me. I've got a bit of a cough here. Where's it going to end? If we start banning everything, we're going to end up in too afraid to do anything or say anything.
What's interesting is this is not Muslims this time, but it's just the general, everyone else that's doing it this time.
It's all like jumping on a bandwagon now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well... And then another hour here of exploring Islam. So Islam also affecting. We try to put the world to right here, and we'll do that again in just a few moments' time. My guest Sidra Naeem on the show tonight, and we're talking about all sorts of things in the last hour. We ended up talking about Formula One and darts and the scantily clad girls and the other things, Harvey Weinstein, the President's Club, and men ogling girls in scantily. You've come on, tell me. Come on, you can't tell me you've never worn a mini skirt. Come on, you must have been 14-year-old in your bedroom at one stage with your Jackie Annual.
Yes.
Supporting West Ham scarf. You must have at some stage worn a short skirt.
Obviously, I didn't always wear a headscarf. That came later, after 9/11, after I became stronger in my faith.
Yeah.
But when I lived in London, I didn't dress like I do now.
No.
But we were always brought up to dress modestly, like a Catholic person, for example.
You say you became stronger in the faith as a result of 9/11. That seriously affected you then?
Definitely it did, because that's when I looked into my religion. Before that, I was parrot fashion following it the way everybody else was around me. Yeah. I never thought about it because I was living with lots of other Muslims. When I came to Brentwood, I was put in a situation where the majority were white British English and Christian, and I would get the questions, especially after 9/11. Nobody even knew what Islam was before 9/11.
No, I mean, no one really took any notice of it. And people that referred to those from the Middle East, they usually use the word Arabs.
Yes.
And it's changed now, isn't it? You don't hear the word Arab anymore,
yes.
which is presumably short for Arabian, and it's derived from that.
Yeah, so when I first came to Brentwood, people would ask me, what religion are you? Just out of interest, and I'd say Muslim. No one would even bat an eyelid, and nobody asked any questions, and I was just happily carrying on with my life. Then the day of 9/11.
It all changed.
It was at lunchtime 9/11 happened, and it was at about 3:15 I went to collect my children from school, and a bunch of mums came up to me and said, what religion did you say you were again?
Yeah.
And that was
because it was all over the news, yes.
Yes, because then all of a sudden they were interested in Islam. Then the questions came, and I actually didn't know what was in the religion and what wasn't. What was culture, what was the religion, what was written in the religion. So I went away and I looked everything up, and I thought, wow, this is a good religion, because it had an answer for everything. An answer for everything. And then I joined the Interfaith Forum. This is in 2003, I joined the Interfaith Forum, and I walked in, and all the lovely ladies said, we've never met a Muslim before. I was the first Muslim that they actually met who they could ask questions.
Is it a case that Muslims at that time just, just kept themselves to themselves, or really were just so in part of Western society? This whole event has segregated you? Or?
No. I think that they were there, but nobody knew we were Muslim, because nobody was interested.
Nobody cared. Nobody was bothered.
Cared.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
You were just there. Yes.
So all of a sudden they came across a Muslim, and then they asked questions, and then they asked me to do a lecture. Can you do a lecture on so and so?
Right.
That's when I started doing the lectures, and me being a teacher anyway to begin with, I was used to standing up and talking in public.
So no fear of public speaking. So did you have to do research for that very first one?
Yes, the very first one.
Because you seem to know it very well now.
Now I know it, but I didn't then, no.
Yes.
I remember the very first lecture I gave. It was in a secondary school. And I'm not joking. I gave the lecture and I sat down, and I remember I was wet all over. I was sweating. I remember,
gosh.
Honestly, I remember my dress sticking to me. That's how hot I must have been.
So nervous.
I must have been. And now I do everything, and I never get nervous.
Yeah, because you're used to it now.
And I'm so used to it, I can answer any question.
And you probably enjoy it now too.
I love it.
Do you enjoy it?
I think the love of it is the teaching. Teaching is in my bones. I really enjoy teaching. And if I know something, I want to tell other people.
So the teaching that you do now is what exactly? Is it enlightening people about Islam? But you teach out the Muslims as well, don't you?
I do everything. So with schools, first of all, I'm part of SACRE, which stands for Standing Advisory Council on Religious Education. And what we do is a group of teachers, and we set the curriculums for religious education in schools. So I did the curriculum for Islam, and that then went into the whole of Essex, everywhere, in all the colleges, in all the secondary schools, primary schools. And part of that role then is for me to voluntarily go into schools, support teachers, do any lessons, do assemblies, workshops on faith and culture as well.
Yeah.
On average, I do 120 schools per year.
That's a lot, isn't it?
A lot.
Yeah.
Everywhere in Essex. And not only that, I host those school visits at the local mosques. So the two local mosques are the Chelmsford Mosque and the Havering Islamic Cultural Centre.
Right.
Obviously, teaching, as in my profession, I am a lecturer as well for education. So I cover the special needs units within the teaching degrees at the university.
As well as running this women's group in Basildon as well.
Yes.
And being the chaplain at Anglia Ruskin.
Yes. And I'm also secretary of a group called Essex Mind and Spirit, which is all to do with mental health and how faith can help with mental health.
Right.
That is a very big national group. That's definitely got a big key point in getting this invitation. Mental health is on the rise, and it's really big out there.
Right.
And this group, this organisation, it's a voluntary organisation which is an organisation that raises awareness of spiritual care in mental health recovery.
Right, I see, yeah.
And that group, we have arranged conferences on dementia and faith. mental health and faith, how faith helps, prayer helps to calm you down and stops the stress and anxiety.
Well, which goes back to some of the things we were talking about in the last hour. A lot of the terrorist incidents seem to be born out of anger and hatred and presumably meditation. That would help quell some of those feelings.
Just like meditation helps with calming down. So that is another thing that I do, and that's really big out there. Really big. The women's group I've spoken about, I feed the homeless every week. The Muslim community raises money, and that's been going on, believe it or not, for nearly 2 years now. Every week, the Muslims give £50, which I take care of, all the money, collect all the money, and then we go and feed the homeless through the church.
Now, a question for you about the homeless, because this is something that's come up recently in another show, and something I wanted to ask. Do you think the numbers of homeless are increasing?
Definitely 100% increasing. But I tell you what's really interesting is the awareness of the homeless is definitely increasing in this country. Because a couple of years ago, you never heard of people feeding the homeless.
No.
And in the last
we'd never
2
heard
years,
of the words food bank.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's really big out there, really big out there. So for the past 2 years, we've been feeding the homeless and raising hundreds of pounds. And that's actually done through a church. And that's the other thing which the British really like. They like the fact that I'm a Muslim and I'm working alongside the churches. I get invited to church services where I'm asked to do readings from the Quran and from the Old Testament, which I'm happy to do because some of the words in the Old Testament are very similar to what's in our books. I've got no problem with that at all. And this is the key, really, of being a moderate Muslim. It's very, very important to, mix with everybody. Go to the churches, be friends with everyone, and be moderate in your way of thinking, because at the end of the day, we live in England, and we're living in a British society, we're living in a Christian society.
Yeah, this is our country, isn't it?
Exactly, and it is so important, for Muslims to engage with others.
Do you think that there are those who don't?
Yes, there is. I will honestly say there is.
Yeah, because we see areas in towns and that where certain faiths stick together and don't venture out.
I'll tell you what happens is where there are too many of one kind, that's where the problem is.
Yeah.
Where there are too many of one kind, why would they
the others
need
go,
to talk
don't
to the
they?
others?
And
they don't need to talk. They've got too many of their own. Why would they need to mix in a culture which is alien to them, where they lack confidence to speak English, when they've got their own they can speak their own language with?
How do you find Brentwood as a town?
Brentwood, obviously, is very white British English in comparison to where I lived all my life.
Which is East London.
East London, yes.
Yes.
But I have learnt to adapt. I'm not one of those who will cocoon myself in my own house and not go out and mix. But that could be the fact that I'm British and I've got an English accent, which helps a lot for the others then to relate to me as well.
And there are some who don't speak English.
Yes, and the ones which come from back home obviously lack confidence and don't have the English skills. They don't have English as their first language.
Yes, it tends to be the younger ones that go to school here.
Yes, but in the days my mum and dad came to Britain, 1962 my dad came here as a student. In those days, there were people coming over who couldn't speak English, but they did mix because they had to, because there wasn't that many of their own. That's the difference, I find. There's too many of each culture nowadays.
Yeah, so you've got all these little groups.
Then you get all
together.
These little groups. And even within Islam, you get the denominations.
I wonder how we can ever, change that. I don't know that we can. Perhaps it's a problem that's got too big. I want to ask a question about funerals right here on Gateway 97.8.
Gateway 97.8.
6:22, Drive Time with Roz from the heart of Eastgate, and a show all about Islam, exploring Islam. My guest, Sidra Naeem, she is a Muslim chaplain who works at Anglia Ruskin University. She also lectures and teaches and, well, does a lot more than I do in the average week. She's also a mum and a wife as well. So
yes, that's the thing people forget.
Yes.
You know that.
Yeah, so wonder you can fit that into the day.
Well, it all gets fitted in because people come to my house and they get really surprised. They think, we thought your house would be really messy, and because you're always out and you don't cook. I got that one the other day. I cooked a great big pot of rice and took it somewhere, and the lady said they thought, oh, we didn't think you cooked. And I said, well, why not? And they said, well, we thought you were only good outside the house and not in the house.
I see. But you could look at that another way, because, I mean, it was like that with myself and my other half a long while back. I'm going back about 15, probably more like 20 years now, but we were out a lot, but the house was always tidy, and that's because we weren't there. So we weren't there to mess it up. So it always, when we walked into the home, it always smelt nice and smelt fresh, and that's because when we were there we cleaned it. And so we'd go off somewhere and then we'd come back about a week or so later. You know, it was always.
But you don't have children, do you? That's why. And with children, it does get messy.
Yes.
Cleaning you have to do, don't you?
Well, I can tell you it gets messy now with cats.
Yes.
Because we've got 6 of them. Yes. And just yesterday we had a dead bird.
Oh, dear.
So feathers everywhere.
Yeah,
and
we had one of those outside our driveway the other day, and it causes a big mess, doesn't it?
Sorry, listener, if we've put you off your dinner tonight. I did warn you about some of the topics we discussed on this show earlier. We're talking about Islam. You're going to see the Queen next week. If you've just joined us, Sidra's going to see the Queen. She's been invited to Buckingham Palace. Very special invitation. You've got your pass there, I see, for
that's
parking.
Got my job on it. Anglia Ruskin University, that's my entry card.
Right.
And I've got a special car parking ticket to park inside Buckingham Palace car park.
Fantastic stuff. There's not many people that can say they've done that.
Yes. My husband will drive there, and then he's going to take a photo of his car in the car park, and then he's going to go because he's not allowed.
You will send us some of these pictures so we can tweet them out, won't you?
Of course I will, yes.
On our Gateway
I'm not
Twitter
allowed
page.
to take photos in the palace,
No, you won't be able to.
Official photos, apparently, they will take, and then those are the ones I can use.
But you can take some pictures outside.
Yes,
so we can see pictures of the outfit as well, because you show me the dress.
Yes.
And the brooch as well, which is also quite important. Yes. So that's going to be brilliant.
Yes.
Quickly, because we're coming up onto the news at 1:30. I did say in this segment, wanted to mention funerals, because we've got to talk about green funerals as well, which is something quite interesting. Is that something that would affect Muslims? Yes. Adversely? There's a special way that you do things with funerals. Again, as a morbid subject. Yes. But isn't it within 24 hours with the Islamic faith?
Yes, that's correct. We try and bury as soon as possible, as soon as the person passes away. In a hot country, obviously, it would be on the same day. In this country, it all depends. We go by the law here, because sometimes...
Circumstances of death, though, surely would interfere with that.
It would, because if a post-mortem is needed, for example, to check if the body,
or for foul play or anything like that.
That then we have to do according to law, and that can take up to a week. Also, if the death happens at a weekend, usually there's not enough people around to sign off death certificates.
No, it's a weekday thing really for that kind of work, isn't it? For the coroner too.
Yeah. So in that case, then it would stay for a couple of days. The body would have to stay for a couple of days. But normally burials is the norm.
Not cremations?
No, not cremation. Burial is the norm for example, for Catholics and for the Jewish faith as well. Cremations actually... the history of cremations comes from paganism. So this country, as you already know, was pagan before.
It was, yes.
And pagans burn bodies. And then when Christianity came here, that's another aspect that slowly leaked into Christianity.
Yeah, well, within Christianity, it's burials or cremation.
Yes, it's up to you, isn't it?
But there's this green
Yes, there's a new thing out in the news, which has hit the news. It's come from America, a brand new concept.
Most of it does.
Yeah, it's a brand new concept from America.
As long as it's not an IKEA coffin or something like this that you build yourself.
It's a green coffin.
Oh, no.
And apparently you get sprayed with a special solution which disintegrates your body within 90 seconds.
What?
Until you become bones.
Within 90 seconds?
Yes.
Oh, like sulfuric acid?
Something like that, yes, it is actually. And then the bones are then crushed separately. And they said that it's less sort of bad. Like with the cremation, it's heat, isn't it? And it...
Yeah.
And it sort of makes you cringe, whereas this... sounds a bit more better kind of thing.
Well, I just hope that if it's me, I won't know anything about it. That's all I can say.
Yes.
So, you can put me out in the black sack if you want, once I've gone, or if you think you can recycle me, I'll go in a pink one.
Yes.
Which is more my colour anyway.
Yes. So with Muslims, that wouldn't be allowed because it's still a form of cremation.
So it's burials in the Muslim world.
And that's it, really.
Yes.
And that's happened right through biblical times. In fact, there's a story about, Adam and Eve, and when Adam's son Cain killed Abel. And it's in the Bible as well. And Cain killed Abel, and then he buried him.
Yes.
And it's since that time, really, burials have been carrying on. So that's what we would do. Definitely
interesting. It just is so interesting.
Yes.
It's drive time with Ros, my guest Sidra Naeem. We're brilliant drive time tonight, 20 minutes away from 7 o'clock, and it's all chat. We've hardly played any music on the programme tonight. That's all going to be fixed though after 7 tonight. We've got Strictly 80s, and coming up in tonight's programme, we've got Richard Becker here to tell us he not only does sport, he also presents the show after 7. Sidra, you're an 80s fan, aren't you?
I am, yes. That was the best era, actually, for music, wasn't it, the 80s?
You think so? I like the 70s. I'm sort of a 70s child myself. And I mean, you mentioned the year 1962.
That was when my dad came over as a student.
That was the year I was born.
Was it?
Yeah, which will give you a clue to my age. I shouldn't have mentioned it on air, but nevertheless, I've done it now on that. Richard tonight sporting a very different outfit from Sidra, I'm glad to say. But it's got the London Underground on it.
Yeah.
What's that say? I'm going?
You can't see the bit underneath. It says, I'm going underground.
Oh, right, I see. Which, of course, is the title of an 80s song.
It is, yes.
Well, we were going underground with the Jam, weren't we?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
1983, my news headlines is to do with Aaron Sharon, who quits over a massacre inquiry.
Right.
Which happened in the Middle East.
Right.
So
Ariel Sharon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was the Israeli defence minister.
Right. The name rings a bell. Does it ring a bell with you, Sidra?
The Sharon bit does,
Yeah, Sharon, yeah.
Well, I didn't know if it was Sharon or Sharon. I called it Sharon.
Sharon, I think it's the right pronunciation, yes.
So, yeah. Got some...
Have you learned anything, do you think, in this show tonight? I don't know if you've been listening from next door.
I have. I've been editing other bits for tonight's show. So, yes, I have been listening to...
Yeah, I mean, we explore Islam, which is something you don't do in Strictly 80s. Is there anything that's sort of quizzical questions about Islam that you'd like answered tonight? Because we've got an expert here to do that.
No, I think you answer it anyway. You know, I've, I listen to, when I come in, I listen to the pair of you chat, and I think you answer everything, so... Yeah.
Yeah, so there we are. I think we're covering it all. Yes. We've been talking about funerals and this strange green idea from America where you pour some kind of chemical onto a person and they just disintegrate.
Yes.
That sounds like a clean way of dealing with it, though, I must say that. If it happens in 90 seconds.
Yes.
Yes. But I don't know. Not in the Muslim world, though.
No, because that would be, it's not a natural way, is it, of disintegrating?
No.
So, with like with Christian funerals, they say from earth to earth.
Ashes to ashes.
Ashes to ashes.
Dust to dust.
That's what we believe in, you see. So
you stick to that religiously?
We do, yes. So we're made from earth and we go back into the earth.
Okay.
And we disintegrate naturally in the earth.
Can't argue with that, can I? Will the mosques be listening to the show tonight?
They always do, and I always send out the link afterwards. So both of the mosques, they both listen.
Okay, so we've got to say hello tonight to Chelmsford Mosque, all at Chelmsford Mosque. Hello this evening from Gateway, and to
and Havering Islamic Cultural Centre.
Havering Islamic Cultural Centre. Hello to you tonight as well, and welcome along. If it's your first time listening to this show, hope you're enjoying it. And of course, we do this every month.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
yes.
Another thing we have to do, and thanks, Richard, we will let you go and set up for Strictly 80s now, and I'm looking forward to the vinyl selection as well, with all the cracks and the pops. Crackles.
Oh, yes, there will be something. As to what, I'll keep it in suspense.
Okay, we'll see. Sound of Bo Bell.
Basically, I was born in Huddersfield. That's where.
Oh, so you're not a Cockney then? You've answered the question.
Well, my dad came here as a student and went to Bradford University.
Right.
So I was born in
Huddersfield.
Up north. Yes.
But you haven't got a Hull accent, though, have you?
That's because I was only 1 year old when we moved to London. So as far as I'm concerned, London was my home, and I grew up. But we were not right in the Bow Bells end. We were in Forest-gate, which is outer London in those days. It's not really, well, the real Cockney's really in Bow.
Whitechapel area,
but I wasn't from there, no.
Yeah. Was Forest-gate a nice place to live when you were younger?
It was very nice, actually, and where we were, it was quite rural because we had Epping Forest and we had Wanstead Flats and those kinds of areas near us. Plenty of green, and the community was very mixed.
Yeah, and everybody got along okay?
Everyone got along fine. All our neighbours wore white British English, and we were in and out of each other's houses, and no bullying at schools, nothing. No. Everything was mixed, and we all got on with everyone else.
Yeah, I certainly think a lot of this bullying now seems to be to do with the internet again, and, you know, where we say a lot of the Islamic extremist propaganda seems to exist. It seems to be online, where a lot of the brainwashing occurs. Yeah.
And I was always proud of being a Muslim. Never ever had to hide my faith from anyone.
Well, as you say, before 9/11, no one even said the word Muslim, really, did we? It was always like when you referred to Middle Eastern, it was always Arabs, wasn't it?
Yes.
Or Arab women.
Yes,
they would say that was the term used. You've only got to watch some of those old programmes.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, and we've been on this subject before, and as Richard is still sitting here, I've been watching Mind Your Language. I've been watching the DVD that Sidra loaned me, and I find that extremely funny. I've really gotten into that series, and I really feel for the teacher, Jeremy Brown.
Yes.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great series. You saw it when it was first on?
Yes, we used to watch that. We used to all sit down together, actually, the whole family. We used to all sit and watch that, and the Goodies and some of the other programmes. We loved it.
Yeah.
The other one was Bruce Forsyth's Generation Game. We used to watch that a lot.
On the conveyor belt tonight.
Yes, that was really good. We used to love that.
Oh, let's have a look at the old scoreboard. That was the expression on that, wasn't it? Poor old Brucey.
Nice to see you, to see you.
Nice, yeah. And then the pose, wasn't it? Yeah, which I can't do on the radio. It's a waste of time. Never mind. Yes, there we are. So, Mind Your Language. Would it be considered racist now, though?
Now, yes, because of thanks to all the regulations that are out. But in those days, I personally don't think it's racist, because even the caretaker in there,
he's
white
a
British
Cockney,
English,
isn't he?
and they really take the mick out of him with this Cockney rhyming slang. So it's not to just other ethnicities they take the mick out of.
They're not. I don't think they're insulting anybody in there. You know, they're not insulting. You've got the German lady, you've got the Indian lady, you've got the Chinese lady.
It's everyone, isn't it?
And I mean, I just watched the one where they came in dressed in their national costumes, and of course the Chinese lady came in dressed as a communist, and it was so funny. You know, the stuff she came out with. But I mean, the Muslim guy keeps saying blimey.
Yeah.
I mean, he starts every sentence with that almost. I mean, it's just so funny. But, you know, I can't see how, you know, okay, we're of a different era, but why would we consider it racist? It's not.
I don't think it is.
It was just fun, you know, and I mean, we don't see programmes of that calibre, I will say, just fun programmes anymore, which is such a shame. So do go and buy it on DVD. I've loaned it from Sidra, so I don't have to. Drive Time for a Thursday has been a very interesting show. There's about 5 or so minutes of the programme left. Sidra Naeem is my guest. She's a Muslim chaplain from the Anglia-Ruskin University. We cover all sorts of very diverse subjects on this show tonight. Is there anything that we've forgotten about? Perhaps we ought to mention those 2 events again. Anybody not listening to this in the first hour and wanting the information about the events in Havering in particular, and also the one, was it Chelmsford?
Yes, so Havering Summit Cultural Centre is part of the National Mosque Open Day. 18th of February, 11 till 4. Everybody's welcome.
It's just over a week away, really, isn't it?
Yes. So there'll be 2 lectures, one on the history of Islam in Britain and the other one, Golden Age of Islam, which I'll be doing both of those. Plenty of food, plenty of things to buy. So it's, even for children, there's face painting, henna painting, bouncy castle, that kind of stuff. And the other one is linked with Chelmsford Mosque, where they're trying to raise money to expand.
Yes.
And that is a bazaar. That's at Columbus College, Partridge Avenue, Chelmsford, 1 to 5 o'clock, and that's 17th March.
OK, so that's another month away, and obviously possibly before or after, rather, our next chat, which will probably be at the beginning of the month as well. Yes. So next time we see you, you will have been to see the Queen.
Yes,
so you can tell us all about that next time. Great. So it's been wonderful. Thank you very much for being a special guest on this show tonight. And if there's anything else I haven't mentioned, you've got about 2 minutes.
2 minutes, just to quickly finish off the funerals bit, life after death. So we believe...
You want one.
So we just thought we'd just quickly finish off. So resurrection, we believe in resurrection.
Yes.
Near the day of judgment, and then we believe we will be judged by God, and he will judge us by our good and bad deeds, which are being written down by the angels on our shoulders. So the good deeds person, the one that the good deeds outweighs the bad deeds, will go to heaven. And the baddies like ISIS, who have been doing
they are baddies.
Trauma on the earth, will go to hell.
OK, well, possibly the best place for them. But I think the main message here from us is that we don't want to see anybody converting to ISIS, getting brainwashed out there. And I think it's through the work that you do with your Interfaith forums, the work that you do here in Essex. We do have a pretty good record here in this county.
Yes, let's hope it stays that way.
OK, and very interesting last week on this show, a meeting with Roger Hurst, the police crime fire Commissioner as well, was guest on the show, and he said pretty much the same thing, that we don't have a real great problem in Essex, so let's hope it stays that way. Sidra, thanks for being such a wonderful guest tonight, and we'll see you again in a month.
Thank you very much for having me. You always make me feel so welcome here. It's like my second home, this radio station, so thank you very much for having me.
Well, we'll have to get you on doing your own programme here very soon as a guest presenter, presenting your own 80s music. Perhaps you can join Richard on his show, playing lots of George Michael and stuff.
Yes, that
Brilliant
would be
stuff.
lovely.
OK, Sidra Naeem, my guest tonight. Thanks for your company too, and it's been a blast.